Welcome to Spreadsheet Geek. In this lesson, we'll talk about what's been called the most useful command in Excel, move or copy sheet. This video was made using Microsoft Excel 2019. Before we talk about moving and copying sheets, let's get some terminology straight. You'll look more professional in the workplace if you use this terminology. A workbook is an Excel file that contains one or more worksheets. And I'm talking about files that end with the file name extension XLSX or .xls if you're using a pre-2007 version of Excel. I am not talking about another common file name extension .csv, which stands for comma separated values. A .csv Excel file can only contain one worksheet. You can actually add more worksheets to a CSV file after you have it open, but you'll get a nasty surprise after you save it and try to reopen it later because only one sheet will remain. As a demonstration of what I'm talking about with CSV files, I'm going to open up an Excel file, just a blank workbook, and I'm going to call this, I'll put it on the desktop and I'll just call it CSV, but I want to save this as a CSV comma delimited file. There are many types of Excel files, but this is one of the more common. And we'll just call it CSV. So there's my file. And I'm going to put a number on this one, just so we have some data in there. And I'm going to add a second sheet with a 2. And I'm going to add a third sheet with a 3 on it. I'm going to save that. And close it. This is Excel kind of hinting that there's a problem. I already saved this, but it's asking me if I want to save my changes. So yeah, I'll save my changes. And it's saying, do you want to save this as a different file type? No, I want to save it as a CSV. Let's replace that. And it closes. Now look what happens when I go back into this file. The interesting thing is that it's got the 3 here. That was the third sheet I saved or created, but it's got the name of the first one. So that's what I get, and my other 2 sheets are completely gone. So try to avoid getting into that trap and be aware of what you're dealing with when you have a CSV file. Let's continue with the topic of moving and copying worksheets. First, we're going to move one worksheet from one workbook into another workbook we have open. This may be something you need to do when you're working on a team as the team leader and you have contributors doing work on their own worksheets in their own workbooks. So to demonstrate moving a sheet from one workbook to another, I've got 2 workbooks here, one for the source or contributor and one for the master file or the team leader. So let's open the contributor first. It's kind of laid out the same way, 3 sheets, and we wanted to move this one sheet, sheet number 1, into the other workbook. Now the move or copy function is found up here under Format. Right here. I always prefer to come down here and right mouse click on the tab. It's more logical to me to have it there. So you see I have this little dialog box that comes up. What book do I want to move it to? Contributor or a new book? So this is the first lesson learned. Your target book has to be open. So let's cancel out of this, go back to our screen here, and this will be our target workbook. So that's kind of laid out the same way. We want to put the sheet number 1 from the other workbook right here in front of sheet A. So once again, I'm going to open up the Move or Copy dialog box. I'm going to move that up so you can see it. And I'm going to select Workbook Team Leader. And it says, where do you want to move this? And we want to put it before one of these sheets. So that's actually correct. We wanted it before sheet A. Notice there's a box here to check create a copy, but we're not going to check that because we're just moving, not copying. And I'm going to hit OK. And you see it jumped over to my team leaders workbook, and that sheet number 1 is now in that workbook. Now, notice when I close, if I close this workbook, this contributor workbook, it asks me if I want to save my changes. If I say no, don't save the changes, then I go back there. There's my original yellow sheet number 1. So I didn't really rip it out of there permanently if you don't save it. If you save it, then it'll be gone forever from this workbook. That's how you move a sheet from one workbook to another. Copying a worksheet from one workbook to another works very much the same way, except you check that little box. But we'll do a little experiment to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this contributor workbook one more time. And I said I would make this a little more interesting. So on sheet number 2, I'm going to enter a number into cell A3. And I'm going to go over to the first sheet and reference that data. So we have a workbook. Within there are two worksheets, and one worksheet feeds a number into the other worksheet. So we're going to save that. Now remember, this sheet number 1 is the one that we're going to copy to the other workbook. And I want to see if it brings this data with it, because that's referencing something that's still in the old workbook. So let's minimize this one and open up the team leaders workbook. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the Alt-Tab key to jump back. So I'm going to go ahead and move or copy. My apologies because you can't quite see that, but all I did was select move or copy sheet. And this time I'm going to go back to Team Geek. I'll put it right before sheet A like last time, but I'm going to check the create copy thing and hit OK. So if I flip back to the contributors workbook, there's no change here. I still have the original copy of everything, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this file down. And I have a worksheet in my team leaders workbook with a number in there, but it's got a link. It's got a link to where that file is stored on this computer. And then it goes to the workbook name, sheet number, and cell number. So what happens when we have a link like that? What if I go back to that original contributors workbook and I throw it in the trash and then empty my recycle bin? It's gone. So it's still hanging around here. I've still got the correct data, and it's still referencing a workbook that doesn't even exist anymore. So how's that going to work? If I hit the save button, it apparently saves, and let's close it. and open it again. So now I've got a warning. Automatic update of links has been disabled. We can't update some of the links in your workbook right now. Okay, that's obviously because I trashed that other contributor file. You can continue or you can edit the links you think are wrong. So let's actually continue. We'll live with this for a minute. And if you go to the data menu, you may never have noticed it before, but there's an option down here called Edit Links. And this option is only active when you have links in your workbook. This workbook's going to act weird because it's got a broken link. So you have the opportunity to go in here and change the source or break the link. That's probably what I would choose to do. Break it. So now I've just got the 123 there, and I can save, and let's close it and reopen it one more time. It's the next day at the office, and there's no issues now opening this workbook. I've got everything I need, and I can move on about my business. If you've enjoyed the content of this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. And I'd like to hear your comments, especially the issues that you have with Excel or projects and things you'd like to have solved. I'll cover them in a future lesson. Thanks for visiting Spreadsheet Geek.